Lowering your rate does not create demand.
If your first instinct is to drop your price, if you are not getting bookings, you are making a huge mistake and it is costing you thousands of dollars.
And if the only thing you've done is drop your rate, then you haven't tried everything to get a booking. Hi, I'm Sarah Karakayan.
And I'm Annette Grant. And together we are
Thanks for visiting.
We've been hosting for well over a decade, welcomed tens of thousands of guests, and earned thousands of 5-star reviews.
Our portfolio continues to bring in over 1.5 million year over year, and supported not only by the industry's leading brands, but also some of the biggest media outlets.
And we're here to help you with your furnished rental. Let's get our minds right before we dig in to all the things we're going to go over. A little bit of economics here, supply and demand. I want every host to understand that demand is not based on how badly you want or you may need bookings. Demand is based on guest search behavior.
Yes.
So that demand is predicated on how many people are looking for our specific type of property during specific dates for their specific needs. We are not creating this inflated demand by lowering our rates.
Right. Just because you lower your rate, it's not going to get someone to pick up their suitcase or like, oh, that rate is low, so I'm just going to like change my behavior. That's not how it works, right? And demand is measured in occupancy. So if there's forecasted high occupancy in your marketplace, which those forecasts exist and you can find it
readily available to us, which is amazing.
Yep, you can find it in your dynamic pricing software. If occupancy is going to be high, that means there is high demand. There are fewer dates that are going to be available. Mm-hmm. If forecasted occupancy is low, that means there is going to be low demand. That means there are going to be fewer bookings for all of us and more availability across the board for the marketplace. So, TFE pro tip, if no one is searching in your marketplace for those dates, and you can look that up by looking at the pickup in your market, okay? And you can see what is that percentage of pickup in your market. And if no one is currently searching, you can lower your rate as much as you want. You're not going to somehow create demand and magically get booked, right? What is going to happen is if you have a great property that is appropriately priced, that has great reviews, and you have a good marketing strategy around it, and you are showing up to whoever is searching, that is what's going to get you booked. Okay, but when you just drop your price because you think you're going to create some sort of demand that doesn't exist, you're just leaving money on the table because the people who are shopping would have paid appropriate market rates, but you gave them a great deal for no reason at all. All right, let's talk about why dropping your rate doesn't create demand. Dropping your rate, price is not a magic switch. So just because you dropped your rate, it's not going to, like I said before,
create a flood of demand.
Correct. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to like be searching in my area. First of all, there's no demand, so they're not searching in my area. So they're never even going to know that you've lowered your rate that much, right? But price, what it is meant to do is influence conversion, okay? But there is still a market price that is market appropriate for that demand type. And when you just drop your rate because you think, oh, if I'm the cheapest one on the block, I'm all of a sudden going to be the first one booked, and that's going to talk about why that's not true. Mm-hmm. You have the wrong mindset around price, and that's the first thing that we really want to fix. And then also, if demand is low, you have to remember there are fewer eyeballs on all listings, including yours, mm-hmm. including your competitors.
Mm-hmm. And lowering your rate, it can actually hurt you.
Yeah.
We see so many hosts getting in competition with their neighbors, the hosts around them. You have no idea what someone else's financial responsibilities are. 2, if I'm looking as a guest and I see a really reduced rate, it actually sends up red flags, I believe, of like, why are they essentially giving away this property? Was it an accident? Is something going on? So it can send up red flags to the guest. And then another thing is you might be attracting the wrong kind of guest to your home. And last but not least, you might be simply losing money And you do not have a sustainable business if your first reaction always is to lower your rate and then you're losing money on each and every reservation.
And let's dig into that. So let's say you do drop your rate because demand is low, you don't quote unquote have bookings, so you're like, oh, I'll just be the most attractive one because I dropped rate. Let's say you do get booked, and it has nothing to do with how inexpensive you are. Maybe it's like the perfect bed to bath ratio. Maybe you do have great reviews and this is your first like moment of grasping at straws to get booked. So now you've lost money because they would have booked you anyway at a fair rate. That's how you're losing money. They would have booked you anyway if you've got a great listing, it is a low demand period, but you're being served up first. And let's say you're not even looking at pickup, whether people are shopping. If you would just have waited a little bit, you would have gotten picked up. You're losing money that way. Also, when it comes to red flags, I was just shopping for a short-term rental in Nashville, and Annette and I are going there for work. And I was in the same area, and I was looking at listings, and there was this one, the same date ranges, same bed to bath ratio. It was like $200 cheaper than total than the other. I actually was like, so maybe they don't pay their cleaners like a great fee, and then I don't know what kind of cleaning they actually have done, or like, do they even use good products when they're This is truly what's going through my head. I'm not just saying this to influence you on this content. So I usually go for the middle of the road, slightly higher end, because I'd like the person I stay with to have more resources to make sure I have a really great, clean, well-stocked stay.
And I just want you to put yourself in the traveler's shoes, and I think about when you go on a trip, and let's say you are booking a hotel. Is your first inclination when you book a hotel to get the cheapest hotel? Probably not. So think about that as you are pricing your short-term rental.
And here's the thing, like, let's say it is your first instinct, but if your property isn't an economic stay, like maybe that is if that is your property type to like be the most economical stay possible, then you know the kind of guests that you're trying to attract. And we'll talk about that a little later here. But if it's not, like why, and you're more of a mid-scale to upscale property, again, like there is a guest type for you and you still want to attract that guest type, right? I do want to say one other thing before we move on, and it is about your booking window, right? That average amount of time in that season where the time frame from when a guest books to when they arrive. And what we see hosts doing also is forget about the idea of dropping your rate because you think all of a sudden it's going to make someone book you. Hosts are lowering their rate or dropping their rate when they're still very much in their booking window. They don't know what their booking window is.
Exactly. They actually can hurt them too just by not knowing this simple thing, again, that your dynamic pricing software, your PMS, will help you know on a regular basis because it changes.
It does change, and so you have to stay on top of it. So again, just to recap, make sure you're not considering adjusting your price before your booking window is even closed, right? That average time to when a guest finds you and wants to book between then and when they want to arrive. That is the booking window. And then, of course, too, thinking that if you drop your rate, you're all of a sudden going to create demand. When demand is already low, everyone in your market knows it. They're pricing appropriately. There's no reason for you to go below that market rate that everyone else is charging because you're just leaving money on the table. We see this in our hosting business mastery, where one of our members shows up on a call with us or it's in our private group and they're like, I've tried everything and
But
I
actually,
can't.
we do not let them do that for very long because we do not take that as an answer.
We don't,
It's
but they do
unacceptable.
it.
They do it, and it's unacceptable, though.
Right, at the beginning of their time with us, they kind of have this release of negative energy and they just say, I've tried everything. I'm lowering my rate as low as it can go and I'm still not getting bookings. And then we dig in with them and we're like, let's quantify that. What does it mean you've tried everything? And they're like, well, everyone else is getting booked. And we're like, show us who else is getting booked and at what rates, right? And so the more we dig, the more they have not tried everything. The more they want the easy button, which we get that. Like, believe me, like we have to check ourselves too when it comes to being in slower periods or maybe trailing behind what we were hoping to do for that time period. I don't want to act like we've got our act together at all times, but Annette and I are very lucky where she can check me and I can check her in those moments and say, let's quantify it. What have we actually done that actually moves the needles? And we want to help you here in that moment. So it's not going into your dynamic pricing software and lowering your rate to as low as you can go. That is not trying everything. Here is what fighting for your business and trying everything looks like.
You're going to look and audit your listing and every single section of your listing. Next, you're going to want to take a look at your amenities or lack thereof. What is going on with your property? How can you improve it? You're also going to want to shop your competition. When is the last time you looked at your comp set? When is the last time you've really done a review? There are properties constantly coming and going. Look at them, look at their reviews. So those are the first 3 things you want to do.
Other things that could be off are your messaging and your positioning of your property. There are so many ways that you can analyze the way you're speaking to potential guests, to your current guests, and so maybe that's reflecting in less than great reviews, the positioning. When it comes to the positioning, that leads to our next point of maybe you are attracting the wrong kind of guest. It's not the great fit, or you're not talking to them like they want to be talked to. Maybe you're not showing up where they're searching most, right? All of these things, if they're not on, if they're not lined up, you could be missing whatever opportunity there is in the marketplace. And then last but not least, and this is a big one, is calendar management. Like a lot of you don't have your eyes on your calendar, on the different settings, on how a guest, you might not even be showing up because of the restrictions that you have put in place. You might want guests to book a certain way, but the way they're actually traveling, the way they're actually booking might not be what you've set up in your restrictions. And so therefore, you're not even an option for them. And that actually happens a lot more than hosts realize, because maybe it's something you set up when you first listed and you haven't looked at your calendar settings in a really long time. And so we encourage you to go back, go through everything, analyze everything. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of other things that you can do to be the most attractive property in a time when there is low demand.
We just went over several things that you should be doing to refresh, to audit, to be in control of your listing. The one thing we want to offer, though, is to do these one at a time, and you want to track them. You want to see which one is moving the needle. You want to see how many people are looking at your listing, what your conversion rate looks like. So slow and steady wins the race here. We don't want you to go in and frantically make all of these changes, because you do want to see which one is truly moving the needle.
I'll give you a little TFE pro tip. We host boot camps where we go over all of the things that we just talked about in great detail. We call it the booking funnel, where your listing hopefully pops up to even be considered. And we talk about how to get you to pop up. And then everything has to be in alignment for a guest to actually book you, right? It's not just the photos and your listing description and your titles and your reviews and your pricing. It's all these things have to work together to get a guest or a customer to convert. So that whole booking funnel has to work. And we go into great detail about how you can do that. And this is all backed by data. So if you want to be in the know and join us on our next bootcamp, go to thanksforvisiting.com/bootcamp and get on the wait list or sign up, depending on if we have a bootcamp going on at that time. Demand is market driven. Your response is business driven. So there are so many things that influence demand, but you need to know how you compete in your marketplace, because I can tell you this, the best listings are usually still the first to get booked, even in slower time periods. So those listings that focus on really great amenities that actually move the needle for the kind of guest that wants to stay there, right? Messaging, visuals, how you sell the property online, all of those have to work. And those hosts don't have to have bottom of the barrel pricing during low demand periods, because they have a solid listing that are priced appropriately for that market period.
And we want you to feel like you actually can control demand through your own sales and marketing.
Right.
You need to take control of that through your own direct booking site, by your own referrals, your own selling, your own retargeting guests that have stayed before. This is the work.
Your email list.
This is the important work that you can be doing versus the reactive work of simply lowering your pricing. So we want you to actually be excited, encouraged, and looking to the future of how you can increase your own demand, increase your pricing, therefore increasing your overall profitability.
Because I think if we're being honest with all of you, everything in this episode revolves around the fact that you can't control really anything on Airbnb. You're in Airbnb's ecosystem, right? And so therefore, you can't control demand there. But if you have your own ecosystem, if you have your own marketplace of email lists, phone numbers of people who have stayed with you, who know, like, and trust you, who love referring you, and this is possible for you. This is very, very possible for you. You do have to consider yourself a business owner, and you do have to put in the work. But the more you can stop relying on Airbnb and taking more control over your business, the more influence you actually do have over guests coming to stay. Because let's say you do send an email out, a very powerful email with a great offer. Maybe you could convince someone to come and stay with you and have a staycation.
Absolutely.
Right? But
Absolutely.
we don't have that flexibility. We don't have that power on Airbnb. Maybe you change your title. Maybe your listing description says something for that short time period. But
maybe you run a promo and they push you out a little bit. But please, we want you to take control of your business. Lowering your rate is not the answer. Building a better, listing a better business, that is the work that needs to be done, and it will pay off.
clarity comes from clear and concise data. It comes from short-term rental owners who are involved in their business. And I can tell you this much, panic pricing is not going to get you closer to your revenue or profit goals.
Mm-hmm. So in the comments below, let us know, instead of just dropping the rate, what are some things that you're going to work on in your business?
And if you want to think of outside the box about how you can grow your own ecosystem or market like we were sharing, you've got to check out our video about how to start an email list for your short-term rental business. With that, I am Sarah Karakayan.
I'm Annette Grant, and together we are...
Thanks for visiting.